as I told you guys, like for when we first announced the guest for this week, today really is a spicy mashup of margin trading protocols on Arbitrum. So, yeah, we're gonna have to see how Dolomite stacks up. We had Dopex in just a couple hours ago on Twitter Space, so really curious to see what is the differentiating factor from Dolomite. More of a hidden gem on Arbitrum, definitely like an up and coming project. So if anyone from the team is in, just come up and join us in the speakers zone here. But I hope everyone's doing well and enjoying the campaign. I see Adam. Yeah, and Adam, if you want to just join as a speaker, that'd be great. Your microphone?
Yeah, yeah, I was raising my hand to make sure that that's what it was. Yeah, Adam, if you just hit the little hand, well, I'm on my phone. If you just hit the little hand button, that should give them the option to get you up on stage.
Perfect. And then we have,
Did that work?
yeah, seems like it did.
Whoop.
Are we all
Hold on,
here?
let's try. Sorry, did that work?
Yeah.
I can hear.
And sorry, is Corey joining us as well, or are we all here?
He should be. I just sent him a text, and he was scrambling around East Denver trying to get Wi-Fi because there's none in the building and they don't have reception.
Well, how is it there, by the way?
I don't know. He's the only one from the team that made it out to East Denver.
Oh, okay. Yeah, well then we'll probably get started, and yeah, hopefully he can join us. But yeah, I know it's pretty hectic over there, so if he can't make it, then yeah, totally understandable. But yeah, welcome guys to this taking over our Discord. I'm so glad that you guys chose Discord. We've been doing so many Twitter Spaces, but yeah, I think that we have so many special games for all of our Discord members. So amazing that we have you guys here today. We had Dopex in a couple of hours ago, so I'd be curious to see too. It's a bit of a mashup of DeFi protocols today, so I want to see like what sort of your differentiating factor is compared to them as well. But I think to get started, let's just have a rundown of what Dolomite is, just like a general overview of the protocol.
Yeah, sure. So Dolomite is really a money market meets DEX. We are able to do spot settled margin trading as well as lending and borrowing. Um, Currently, a lot of the strength and where we're building things out is on the lending and borrowing side. And a lot of the strength there is in the capital efficiency of the system, as well as the support for a much wider range of assets. However, the real strength there, and when I say like wider range of assets, it's not just about listing whatever random coins are out there. It's about listing coins that, or not really just coins, but assets that have not been able to be borrowed against in the past, and the amount of new things that enables. Revenue producing assets, something like GLP, for example, being able to borrow against that enables users to do a lot of strategies that just were not possible before.
Okay, gotcha. And why Arbitrum in terms of your launch?
Well, we looked at a few options out there. Arbitrum, it was a mix of different aspects of it. One of the biggest reasons was just that we really loved the community that was building on top of Arbitrum, the amount of other projects on Arbitrum. And I really wish I could get Corey on here because I know he's been developing on the smart contract side of things and has a few other things to say on that. Um, yeah, sorry, I don't know where he is for it.
Well, that's okay. And I've asked other projects this before, but why do you guys think Arbitrum has uh, attracted so many really innovative DeFi products. Like I feel like, especially with this campaign, there's just so many different protocols that we've talked to that have, yeah, different edges and have chosen not to fork and just build from scratch. I think that's really impressive. So, yeah, why do you think that is?
Um, actually, I know Magin has even more experience with this space. Did you want to take this one?
Yeah, I can give it a stab. With For me personally, I like to compare the two, either Optimism and Arbitrum. There's just a lot more protocols building on Arbitrum, and the network effect that like Arbitrum's community has been exponential for growth, right? And so when you have all these different protocols building, it's meshing with everyone is kind of like a necessity, right? Especially with it still being extremely new. A lot of people think, Arbitrum's been around for a while. It's really hasn't been what, like a year and a half maybe. Um, so you have that, right? We're still in the early stages of growth within Arbitrum. One of the things that I look at with like Optimism, right? You have all you really just have the SNX ecosystem, and the way that they've built themselves, it's really like 4 or 5 different protocols. And their problem that they're facing right now is they don't really have a protocol like GMX, right? They have Quenta, but that's still new, and there's no way to fragment their liquidity or even what's the word I'm looking for? There's no way for them to kind of intertwine with each other, and I think that's what separates Arbitrum from everyone else. Yeah, you'll have like your one-off or 1 or 2 off people, right? Or protocols that don't want to build with each other. It's just all tribalism. But for the most part, everyone here kind of wants to just build with each other. It, at Optimism, it's not really like that. Everyone's kind of building their own. They're all forks of each other. And I think once people realize that building with competition rather than just building against competition, you get a lot farther.
My goodness. Oh, so sorry. My mouse froze for a second there, but yeah, you
Sorry, I
mentioned.
also realized I was muted, but I just wanted to jump in with that, and that's really also what we're looking to do with our approach with things is really tap into that Arbitrum ecosystem through partnerships. I think there's a lot of strength there, and we're really looking to layer ourselves as the groundwork that a lot of other projects can build off of to leverage our capabilities to improve what they can offer for them.
Right, and then in terms of I think Imagine was mentioning community. Yeah, I think Arbitrum was really smart, and when they launched, I felt like more of a fair launch, especially in terms of DeFi, right? They didn't give anyone sort of any exclusivity in terms of other protocols. So I think that was a smart move in instilling instilling sort of the feeling of the ethos of what Web3 and sort of DeFi is all about, right? And yeah, keeping everything really transparent and open. So yeah, I think that really attracted like the right people, and such as you guys who are, yeah, really bringing in some innovation in the space. So in terms of, yeah, the Arbitrum community, I think we've all been having so much fun, like getting to know all these different protocols and all the different like sort of memes that and jargon that otherwise we might be sort of out of the loop on. So in terms of the Dolomite community, I think you guys have taken over the mountain logo, but any other sort of I guess like, yeah, vibe in the community, and can anyone just jump in and get involved? Or are you having people just contribute in that way? Like, um, yeah, let us know what to expect for before people jump into your Discord.
Well, we've been kind of, well, I wouldn't say we've been kind of head down. We've been building head down for the most part, but the Discord's open for everyone to see what it is we're building, and if they, that's the one thing I love about Arbitrum and most places is there you'll have your people there that are just vibing with each other, but then you have that subgenre of people that want to contribute to it. Um, and we're definitely focusing on like ramping up marketing for that specifically. I don't know if Adam, if you have anything you want to add to that.
Yeah, I was really going to say that, in terms of ways to get involved, it'll grow steadily over time. Just like you said, we've really been heads down developing, and in general, we really try and go development first with everything. We put development ahead of any hype, ahead of really anything. We like to build. That's where we're comfortable, is building things. And as we start rolling out releases, as we start rolling out features moving forward, there'll be more and more ways for the community to get involved. Which, right now, this is our first opportunity for people to get involved, and it's great to see as many people here as we do. And that's through this new campaign that we're starting. You may have seen it on our Discord or on our Twitter, which we're trying to reward the people who are going to come to these events, but also the system expands well beyond that to whether it's using different features of Dolomite or coming to other events, coming to onto Twitter and getting involved on there as well. And we're trying to wrap this all up into one nice little system that rewards users as they come to these events. They can accumulate Dolomite experience, like in a video game, to get more levels, and in doing so, get more recognition in the community. And down the line, that leads to more roles in our Discord, exclusive groups, and we can see what else.
There he is. Corey's here now.
Hi guys, can you hear me by the way?
Yeah, loud and clear.
Loud and clear.
Yeah, you're good.
Oh, thank goodness. I'm in the middle of the ETH Denver parking lot. Like the actual conference itself, I swear, is a Twilight Zone.
Oh my god. That's so funny that's where the Wi-Fi is in the middle of the parking lot. It's like your best sort of connection.
My best reception is actually out here. They have no official Wi-Fi in there because they're worried about hackers and things, basically like setting up like false networks basically to mess with people. So there's nothing in there.
How is it for all of us that can't attend? Like, we want to feel the FOMO a bit.
The conference itself is amazing. There's a lot of people here. It makes me feel like we are not in a bear market whatsoever in terms of the sheer number of activity, people, companies that are here, etc. It's the conference center itself is gigantic. Like even just leaving the venue is a tough act to do once you get like really deep into the past the entrance.
Yeah, seriously, with this campaign too, just there's so much excitement with all these different L2s. It is hard to believe that we're in a bear market. But then again, on Twitter, it's like one guy says, we got to take advantage. The bull run has started. The other guy says it's a bear trap. So who knows? But glad to hear that it seems like everyone's excited there. And yeah, things are looking really positive.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more.
So I guess, thank you guys so far. We've done a bit of an overview of the community and the project itself, and I guess what your plans are sort of for more community involvement. We're still waiting to hear what your kind of term for community members are here across. Our members are called the Rangers. So we'd like to know next. Again, we had Dopex in a little bit earlier. So how does Dolomite's margin trading protocol differ from sort of the other guys that we have in the crypto space, and maybe particularly on Arbitrum?
So I'd say a lot of the margin trading that we see out there on Arbitrum especially is centered around perpetual futures or perp trading, where the leverage you get access to is more synthetic by nature. So you deposit some USDC or some other token. They basically give you the equivalent of a cash balance, and then you basically take a synthetic bet on where the price is going to go. And they square up with you based upon where the price moves, and the underwriter usually loses money if the trade makes money, and then on the flip side of that, if you lose money, then the underwriter usually makes money on it. That methodology is quite different from how we're running our protocol, because by virtue of how you actually get access to margin on our platform, you're borrowing the actual asset against your collateral and then trading it into the asset you want to hold. To give you a better example, if you deposit USDC ETH into our system, you're able to borrow USDC against it and then trade that USDC into ETH in order to increase your exposure. So the underwriter for the trade itself is a mixture of the lender who's lending you that USDC so you can trade it, and then the actual spot market itself for trading that USDC into ETH. And the market could be our own AMM that we have on our platform. It could be external venues. And our platform does allow you to trade with our own native liquidity or externally elsewhere, like on Uniswap, Sushi, Camelot, etc.
Okay, and then so that's the differentiating factor then, is that other protocols don't really allow you to access that external liquidity. Is that what you mean?
It's a little bit of the external liquidity, but it's also just the virtue of how we give you access to the leverage. It's once again, you're actually borrowing the real assets themselves and then trading them into the asset you want to hold to increase that exposure, as opposed to, depositing some cash balance and essentially taking a bet on where the price will go and squaring up based upon price movement. So maybe it sounds a bit nuanced because the end result is pretty similar, but there's different regulatory outlooks on how this functions, and there's also different ways that you can integrate with other platforms with a spot settled system like ours compared to others where it gets tougher. So the fact that we're working with these native assets means that we can list a lot of different assets and integrate them into our system, and allow people to take leveraged positions on virtually any asset we have listed on the platform, providing that, of course, we have them available for borrowing and other risk mitigation controls in place for it.
And additionally, one of the big differentiating factors is what we had gone into earlier as well, with the much wider range of assets that we'll be able to have on the platform, which will be ones that are not being offered anywhere else.
Gotcha. So do you guys think that maybe you could give us a rundown, use an example of an asset and sort of like a start to finish full transaction on Dolomite so we can get a better understanding?
Sure. So if we use the ETH-USDC example again, you can already do this on our platform today. You can deposit ETH into our system on the balances page. And then if you click on the trade tab, you're able to then open a margin position using that Ethereum you have deposited. So if you wanted to go long on your Ethereum you have deposited, you would then click on the trade tab, click the margin button, and enter in the amount that you want to deposit in. And then it'll basically, based upon your leverage, purchase more Ethereum multiplied by the leverage amount that you have selected. So if you have one ETH deposited and you wanted to go 2x long, it would then trade USDC into holding an extra Ethereum for you. So some people look at this like it's under collateralized lending because you're putting up one ETH as collateral and then you have a total position size of 2 ETH then. But we look at it more like a leveraged or essentially automating that looping process that we've seen other popular protocols do, like DGenBox and others out there. And in doing so, we're going to be able to extend this feature set or this flow we just discussed to a lot of other assets. So we go from Ethereum to, for example, GLP, which is something we're working on right now. You would actually be able to put up GLP as collateral and then trade your USDC into more GLP in order to leverage up that exposure.
Okay, and then in terms of being able to support this like broader set of collateral assets as a part of, I guess, the competitive edge that we were just talking about, what challenges does the team face in developing this capability and including all of these?
So there were a number of considerations that went into this, and some of it starts off with how we actually architected the protocol itself to be able to support a lot of assets. A lot of the money market systems out there today tend to be limited in number, around like 30 to 60 or so. It seems to be like that magic number where they start to lose efficiency, that the gas maintenance costs start to increase quite a bit, and otherwise the maintaining of those assets becomes extremely difficult. And from the ground up, we architected our system to be able to support a large number of assets and also a diverse group of assets. So it's not just the sheer number, but it's also the technical complexity that can come with listing certain things that otherwise could be really difficult. Like just gave the example earlier of GLP. We're able to work with an asset like that and offer some really unique features that other platforms haven't been able to touch so far with it. And looking beyond that then, when you look at each individual asset, you might need to potentially put different risk mitigation factors in place in order to protect the protocol solvency and how and the health of the system. And the expressiveness of our risk engine, if you will, is also a huge player or a huge part of that process, because it's important for, once again, depending on what the asset itself might call for a stricter LTV or other health mitigating factors. We're able to express that in a pretty detailed manner that results in us having the ability to not just list assets from a technical perspective, but also maintain them from a financial and health perspective as well.
I think
Okay. Yeah, and then I think from what I could read in the docs, like before when I was like preparing for this space, it was mentioning that we can borrow being able to, sorry, have set multiple separate borrow positions with up to 32 different assets as collateral. I think I have an idea why the specific number of 32, but I want to hear like your reasoning first.
The number itself is actually a little bit on the arbitrary side. We noticed a slowdown in execution and an increase in gas maintenance once we like starting to get beyond the 30 mark. And 32 seemed like the magic number to work with, just because in general with computer science things work with a power of 2, 2, 4, 8, 16, 32, 64, etc. So 32 seemed to be the number that worked the best for the circumstance in Arbitrum. We could potentially change that number in the future to raise it or lower it as need be, but it seems like a good place for us to start for right now. And most use cases wouldn't even call for having that many assets in a single position anyway. It's extremely overkill from what we've gathered from market research and talking to potential users.
Okay, gotcha. Yeah, you know what this reminded me of was like 32 is also like that magic number for differentiation factor, like when you're managing your portfolios. So it's kind of like a way to mitigate risk. So I just found that that was like interesting that you guys chose that number. But I guess I'm wrong. That was my
Well,
guess.
it sure comes into play as well with that, but with the underlying systems that usually go with 32 for it.
Okay, and yeah, as you mentioned too, like no one really actually ever hits that number, but that is for whatever reason the magic number. But if you need to have some risk to get some reward, right? So usually people are below that, but that is funny that that worked out for you guys from like a more technical aspect as well. Another thing I noticed in the doc that we have in common at Across is that the Dolomite team is very much all in terms of capital efficiency, and that's something that's really important to you guys. That's definitely something extremely important to Across. Like the Across team and sort of our ethos is that the most capital efficient bridge will win in the end. So we are very much focused on that as well. So can you let us know more about the capital efficiency of Dolomite and sort of like what it means to users and like what the benefits will be of that?
Yeah, so I would separate that out into the capital efficiency of our system into stuff that you can do short term and what the system is capable of long term as we accrue more liquidity and otherwise grow the network effects of the system. So short term, depending on which assets you're looking at, you're able to take all 4 corners of your metaphorical dollar and essentially spend them or use them as efficiently as possible. So for right now, what you can do on our system today is you can deposit ETH and USDC into the platform, and immediately they become available for lending, which means that people can borrow them, and therefore you can earn some interest on it. You can then take that a step further by depositing those tokens at ETH and USDC into one of our native AMM pools. And at that point, you're earning the lending fees and the swap fees at the exact same time. And something we don't have out yet today, but we're hoping to do in the future, is take the LP tokens that represent your liquidity position and allow you to redeposit those back into the system. And therefore, people can borrow them that want to potentially hedge some certain market exposure or potentially go long and permanent loss of the LP pair that you're underwriting. And that becomes another source of yield for you as well. So far, we've covered 3 ways that you'd be able to earn yield on our platform with the same capital. And the 4th way beyond that is actually by borrowing against your LP token. You actually could go take USDC against that or other tokens and then go yield farm them elsewhere. So the capital efficiency extends far into the where you want to situate yourself on the risk spectrum of how much risk you want to take. But then if you're willing to take on that risk, there's a lot of potential reward as our system expands from where it is today and hopefully to where it'll become in the future. And the second overall point with capital efficiency of our system is recall that when you deposit into our system, we give you what we call a Dolomite balance for those that have visited our platform and used it. This Dolomite balance is analogous to like virtual liquidity. because any action you take on our platform as of now doesn't actually result in the actual ERC20 tokens transferring or moving around. It actually just results in like an internal ledger balance change. So over time, as we're able to accumulate more liquidity in the system for not just like lending and borrowing, but also trading, we'll be able to support a much larger loan book, because as like our liquidity inside grows for trading, people actually can trade back and forth without actually having to use any external liquidity sources. And that would actually allow users to potentially borrow capital beyond what's actually physically in the system, because it's really just using virtual liquidity for that at the end of the day. Doing so, of course, would increase utilization of lending rates and borrow rates quite a bit. But the idea overall is that it increases efficiency of the system quite a bit also. So that's more of a long-term play we have going on for it, and we're hoping to hit that mark over time as our system grows more and more. But there'll be some interesting network effects that pop up with the platform as that growth hopefully happens.
To the point of your whole short-term one is really part of our sort of broader attempts to free up liquidity dead ends, so to speak. It should no longer be that someone deposits onto a platform for lending and then it just sits there, or puts it into an LP pool and sits there. Now you could take those assets and put them to work and earn in more ways.
Got it. Yeah, that's
So
go ahead.
I was just going to say, so just adding to that, then, like a big part of our initial strategy with our platform is looking for other strong communities for us to work with, where we can work with some of their LP tokens and actually add them to our platform to unlock what we consider dormant equity that exists in DeFi today. Because the overall trend of DeFi has been to lock liquidity in some venue or some place, and you receive some receipt token for it that people usually refer to as LP tokens.
Right.
And you really can't do much with it except for maybe stake it. And hopefully the staking rewards are good, and that encourages you to keep your liquidity tied up in there. But what we're looking to do with our platform is, if you have that LP token, or if you're staking that LP token, we want to be able to list that asset in our system and make it compatible. So the example I like to use for those that are familiar with SushiSwap is users were able to take the LP tokens on SushiSwap and deposit them into their staking smart contracts. And there's no receipt token for doing that. You just deposit them into something called MasterChef, and it does what it's supposed to do of giving you rewards. Our system even has the capability for working with systems like that and actually allow you to deposit staked liquidity tokens like that into our system and actually borrow against them while still taking the potential sushi rewards in that specific example. So there's a lot of areas of DeFi that draw from a similar playbook. And we think that there's some really strong opportunities for us to work with those teams, even with teams that don't even have tokens for some of these things, and bring them into our system as if they were tokenized to allow users to do more with their assets then.
Well, I wonder if that could work with, our across users who have staked ACX. We have we have a really innovative kind of a first in DeFi where it's called reward locking mechanism for our LPs, where if the ACX that you are receiving as a reward, if you just leave that staked and unclaimed for, we use 100 days as the sort of maximum, as the time goes by, you receive a reward multiplier. So a lot of our LPs are almost at the 100 days, so they're at like 2.85x. So I wonder if even with that mechanism on top, if like our LPs could still receive their sort of multiplier, but take advantage of further capital efficiency and receive the benefits from Dolomite, for example. I'd be curious if that could work.
Yeah, I mean, and speaking to the technical prowess of our team, when we do integrations like this, it requires us to do like some pretty deep dives into the platform we want to integrate with to make sure we really understand how their system works inside and out. So that requires us to, of course, read your smart contracts, understand how they work, where there are any locks, if any, and a lot of parameters like that can cause issues for such a sensitive integration. But overall, our approach is to look at systems like this and see where we can make things work, basically, to integrate them into our platform. So it's actually something I had in mind to potentially look at as we move past our GLP launch and look at what's next for us. we see our roadmap really splitting apart into two avenues. The first one, which is obvious, and we're already talking about this, is external integrations where we work with other teams like yours to integrate new assets and offer new capabilities to our system and cooperative ways for us to work with other communities. And then the second aspect is integrating new features into Dolomite itself that basically extend the functionality of all the assets we already have listed then. So, we'll be looking to split our time apart appropriately between those different forks in the road, so to speak. But the end result we think will be really exciting, where we have a really unique platform that can tie in a very diverse set of assets with a diverse set of capabilities.
Great, perfect. Well, I think that is all the questions that we have time for today. I just realized that we went a little bit over, which is always a great sign. It was so much fun talking with you guys, but I think, maybe we should have done this at the beginning, but before we let you guys go, maybe the team, in case anyone has any questions, like from our audience, if they come into your Discord, can maybe you guys introduce what positions you have in the team so we know to get to like the right person.
Sure, I'll start naturally, just for talking before, but I'm Corey Kaplan. I'm the co-founder of Dolomite and the CEO.
And I'm Adam Knuckey. I'm also co-founder with Corey, and I'm COO. And also, I will often work plenty with the community, so always feel free to drop me a line.
I'm Bobo. I mainly handle the business development side of everything, but I'm pretty much involved with the community as well.
I'm Brandon in our Dolomite Discord, but you could call me Wolf here or whatever. I mainly do operations and handle stuff like the Galaxy campaign.
Oh, lovely. Thanks, guys. And the last question, very light question, but how have you guys been enjoying using Across? And hopefully you guys have used it.
Speaking for myself, I love using it, and I've had some horror stories with other bridges with like assets not arriving or not arriving timely. I could say confidently, even aside from the capital efficiency that Across offers, just the time necessary to move between networks with it has been such a delight to use, and I haven't had any issues with regards to even forgetting pricing. Once again, looking at just the timing necessary to send assets across, pun intended, across networks has been really such a delight to use.
I'm so glad to hear that. Yeah, what the previous team that we had on, it was kind of interesting. It's the first time I've ever heard this where their team was really only familiar with the quote unquote official bridge, like the official Polygon bridge or the official Arbitrum team bridge, and therefore they were kind of shocked to hear that across transfer times was like, under 2 minutes because they're waiting, 18, 20, 25 minutes for their assets to go across again, pun intended. So yeah, that's really nice to hear that you guys are enjoying it and yeah, taking advantage of the speed because for me too, that's like the most important. So yeah, that's the only question I guess we have for today. And yeah, once again, thanks so much for the positive feedback. We're so glad to hear that you guys have been enjoying. And I think yeah, everyone. I mean, Dolomite Hidden Gem on Arbitrum. They're up and coming. The roadmap sounds super impressive. So you guys are in here early. And yeah, once again, thank you so much for joining this Ape into Arbitrum campaign. As always, within a day or two, we'll have a special Dolomite game where you can win prizes in either ACX or Magic tokens. And it will be all about this space. So anyone who's here, you have a really excellent chance of winning. So be sure to check out for that in the events channel. And other than that, guys, any sort of final words?
I'm going to say on my end, just thanks to everyone for coming. We'll be having some cool launches over the next few weeks and a lot more information about what we're building out with GLP. So you can stay tuned for that or feel free to drop into our Discord and we could talk about it.
Yeah, I just want to second what Adam said as well, and thank you again for having us. And looking forward to working more closely with your community and hopefully building some cool stuff together.
Yeah, same here. Seriously, guys. Well, enjoy, Corey. Enjoy your time at ETH Denver. And yeah, have fun for all of us who can't go. But yeah, once again, thanks so
Thank
much
you.
for coming today.
All right.
Okay,
Great.
bye.
Thanks again. I'll speak to you guys later
Thanks.
then.
Bye.
Thanks for having us.